Hey guys, it's the WalterFootball.com After Dark Show for October 31st, 2024. We're going to do a week 9 fantasy football rundown on the spooky edition of WalterFootball.com After Dark Show. Before we get to introducing our lovely co-hosts for this evening, please hit
Lovely.
likes. Please hit, yeah, of course. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description for the merch store. As you can see, on the screen here, Kenny is wearing our January is Envy month, which is coming up pretty soon. I'm wearing a just a regular powder blue Walter football shirt. A slew in the on Twitter. We talked about the best jerseys of football. I mentioned the Kelly Green Eagles jerseys, which will be worn this Sunday. He brought up the Charger powder blue jersey, so I'm wearing that in honor of that. So as you can see on the screen here, we have a ton of t-shirts here, 25% off sale, so between $16 and $19 for all of them. The only exception is the Slava Ukraine shirt, because there's writing on the back. It's $21. But yeah, we have a lot of stuff. Kenny didn't know we had a Biden pooped his pants shirt, which you guys can check out as well. There's a ton of stuff here. Also, please consider super chats, super stickers. That's the best way to help support the show. We want to keep this going, just because we make nothing from YouTube ads. Like, I always joke all the time that I could go outside, look for change, and I'd do better. But it's there's truth in every joke, and I'm actually serious, because YouTube ads pay nothing. So any support you guys can give us, Slew, John Sanders, primarily, have done such a great job of helping support the show. So any contributions would really be appreciated. Can't say that enough. Or you could go to Amazon, buy my books. The most recent one, Jerks of the College Years, where I made fun of people. There was actually we read an AI question about on this page. And said, like, is this book offensive? So some people might be offended. I don't know, but I feel like people shouldn't be offended by stuff. So if you want to have a laugh, you can read this book, or go to How the 2020 MVP Was Stolen. You can be more offended here. But yeah, it's another one. Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if you guys knew this. Brett Favre tried to steal Aaron Rodgers' MVP award in 2020. So you can read all about that. So we are joined today by Kenny, the capisfake.com. Kenny, how's it going?
Well, I heard I'm lovely, so I'm doing great.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just had my dinner. I just had I had a bowl of animal crackers and some sparkling water. So fantastic dinner I had, nutritious, healthy, and the shots are coming. I mean, just right out of the gate. We've got a Kirk, we got a Christian Kirk comment come right at us.
Well, he wasn't a big touchdown guy anyway. He was always the receiving yards after the catch guy, but he broke his collarbone. He's out for the year, sadly. So when Evan Ingram returned, I thought that was kind of the end for Christian Kirk, just being a solid receiver 2 flex. He's always going to be a good backup. Bye week filler. But if Evan Ingram ever missed time again, Kirk was going to step up, and so he's always worth hanging on to. But fortunately, he's out, and I thought he actually might be traded. We were talking about Cooper Kupp last week. He was taken off the trade block, and so Christian Kirk made the most sense after that. It's kind of the same slot sort of guy. But now he won't be traded, unfortunately, because he suffered a season-ending injury. So that's unfortunate. Patrick, it's funny you bring this up, Patrick. Waiting for the Biden garbage shirt. I was actually going to make a shirt tonight that says "I am garbage" on it, but it's got to be something more to a little bit more to it. So if you guys have any ideas, I'm all ears. What's going on, Jamil? Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I strongly disagree with that. Just directs attention to the original Puerto Rico comment. Trump is doing Harris's work for her. I mean, Trump didn't make that comment though. It was a comedian. It wasn't a comment either. It was a joke. I don't know. I thought the joke was funny. He could have said a million other countries, another island, you could have said Bermuda or Cuba or Haiti. It would have been all the same. You could have said Great Britain or Ireland. Those are islands in Atlantic.
The issue with the joke that people didn't realize is that legitimately Puerto Rico has been having a landfill problem. It's that's a part of the so. But I think sometimes when you make a joke that's too, it's not everyone's familiar. Puerto Rico. I am Puerto Rican. I've got family that lives there. My ethnicity. Puerto Rico right now is like it's totally mismanaged, terrible government, terrible corruption, a total incompetence, and there's a legit landfill problem. So there's a ton of trash. So that was what he was alluding to. That was the joke that Puerto Rico, it's like this big island full of trash, which like is kind of like tragically true because of the incompetence of the government. So I think a lot of people didn't even understand the joke. I think that was kind of, I think most people don't even know what's going on in Puerto Rico. You have to kind of know the situation to understand the fullness of the joke.
Yeah, but people are pretending to be mad, Kenny. So we have to care about it.
Listen, I want Trump to win. I'm voting for Trump. I want him to win. I just like, man, like can we just have 1 week where there's no like, just can we just not like why have that guy there? What's the point? Just like I don't want to now I gotta defend you on Twitter now or Threads. I don't have the energy for that. Come on, Trump. We just like anyway.
I don't know. It's a comedian. I don't know. I feel like anyone who is angered by that needs to just calm down.
It's not that angry. It's just like, well, people are going to. So just like, don't give them the fuel. Just like, why have the guy there? What's the point? How does that help you? I don't care.
Well, there's someone out there who's like, I can't afford groceries. You need a better economy. I was going to vote for Trump, but this joke was really offensive. Now I'm going to vote for Kamala. Yeah,
there might be. I don't know. Listen, I want you to win. Stop. This is an unforced error.
Ron Paul. Unfortunately, maybe 10 years ago would have been great.
Hey, Patrick, 2008 called and they want your politics back.
Well, the problem with, I love Ron Paul. The problem is he's 93 and he can't really travel anymore. It's just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if he survives the term, so that's, it's kind of sad, but I wish, 2008, 2012, that would have been awesome. But unfortunately, it's not the case anymore. Patrick says, Walt, in a 12-team half PPR with running backs, Jacobs, Mixon, Aaron Jones, James Conner, and Hubbard. But wow, that's stacked. It looks like a 10-team league, not a 12-team league. It's pretty good. Good job with that one. Michael Pittman has been freed. Yeah, AR5 or AR15 as they used to be called has been benched. I don't know if you saw that performance. Mm-hmm. We'll get to it, but I can't ever remember a quarterback checking himself out of the game because he was tired. I don't like, have you ever remembered something like that? I've been watching football for 30 years. I can't remember anything like that.
Nope, never.
It was wild. I'm part of the garbage sweeping Biden out of power, or Biden and them out of power. Yeah. Hopefully. Paul's been super great on Ukraine war and monetary policy. Yeah. I mean, no, Ron Paul is amazing. It just, he's 93, you can't have a 93-year-old president. I don't care how great he is. Just, like I said, I wish it was 12 years ago and we would have had him in there. My sister's voting for the opposite candidate as me, so we're both just going to stay home. All right, fair enough. All right, we'll get to if you guys have any questions for your fantasy team, just let us know. We're going to, as we usually do on Wednesdays, run through all the games and talk about any reactions we have to these games. So the first game, the Thursday night affair, Rams 30, Vikings 20. Vikings suffered a huge loss in this game, not on the scoreboard, but Christian Darrisaw out for the year. He got hurt. Like, it's an innocent play right before halftime. They're just running the clock out, and he got hurt. Like, if they just had a kneel down, he wouldn't have gotten injured. So just unfortunate for the Vikings here because Darrisaw, arguably the best left tackle in the NFL, and we just saw the offense kind of just fizzle when he was out. So they traded for Cam Robinson, who's a decent lineman, but he's not great. So it's definitely a downgrade. So we see Darnold. Darnold still went 18 or 25 for 242 touchdowns, but given the slightly diminished protection now, it would have been a lot. It would have been like very diminished if they didn't trade for Robinson. But still, I wouldn't expect them to have like great games. But Justin Jefferson should still be outstanding. He went 8 for 115. Aaron Jones' blocking is going to take a little bit of a hit, but he's still talented, so I still like him. Right. For the Rams, Stafford is finally unlocked. Like, first time all year he's had both receivers for the full game. And Cooper Kupp he didn't even look like 100%. Puka Nacua did, which is like the odd thing because ahead of the game, the offensive coordinator for the Rams, Mike LaFleur, said that Puka Nacua was going to play just as a blocker. And I'm like, that's so, like, what are you doing? Like I guess, like, hindsight, of course, 50-50, as Cam Newton once said. I guess I should have known that, like, why would they play him just for blocking? It's kind of dumb. But
Why would the coaches tell us the truth?
yeah, some coaches do tell the truth. Some coaches lie, and now we can't trust Mike LaFleur ever again. So hope the win was worth it, Mike. But anyway, the Rams receivers are back. Fuka Nakua should be a receiver 1 the rest of the way. Cooper Kupp receiver 2 the rest of the way, or maybe in PPR, maybe you can make the case for receiver 1 as well. So what are your thoughts on this game? These two teams?
Yeah, I thought the Rams for the first time looked like themselves. They look like a team that's viable, and Stafford looked sharp, looked good. I picked him up on our league, so I may be starting him this week, either him or Jameis Winston. We'll see which garbage I want to pick. The Vikings. I think a lot of people have been waiting. I think there's a lot of people that looked at the Vikings and thought, okay, this team's not real. They're going to fade eventually. Darnold's going to go back to being himself, but he's been strong, and I think this injury could be significant, and I think people will. I think the general public will be like, "Oh, you see, they just faded. They're not real." But the reality is, I think the injury is going to be more significant than people realize.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think the Robinson does help, though. If they didn't trade for Robinson, I would just severely downgrade everything with the Vikings. But with Robinson there, I'm like, okay, this team could still be good. Like, I'm still drafting Justin Jefferson in my best ball leagues in the first round. I'm drafting like Jordan Addison in like the 10th round because it helps that he doesn't have a bye remaining for the rest of the season. Which, like, by the way, if you're doing best ball and DraftKings like week 9 onward, there's only 6 games of the regular season. Like, drafting guys who still have a bye, like, you're losing 1 out of 6 games, which seems like pretty insane.
It's significant. Yeah.
Very significant. So those guys who have already had their buys, like, you have to upgrade them like a lot. Like, I see like people drafting Derrick Henry in the first round. I'm like, I would rather have like CeeDee Lamb's had his bye, AJ Brown's had his bye, Saquon's had his bye, Justin Jefferson's had his bye, Amon-Ra St. Brown's had his bye. Like, I'd take all those guys over Henry. Like, let's see. I live in Virginia. We already know who's going to win there. I think Virginia goes Republican. Honestly, they have a Republican governor. They said all paper ballots, and they want a case, to remove people from the voter rolls. The Supreme Court just ruled 6-3. So I like Virginia to go Republican. So
I think it'll be closer. I think the basic fundamentals of Virginia feel too close, but I think it'll be. I don't think really close. I think it's Harris maybe +2. That's my prediction on Virginia.
Okay. Well, I thought that them voting in Republican governor would help, but yeah. Anyway, Browns 29, Ravens 24. You just mentioned Jameis Winston being garbage. I played Jameis Winston as my quarterback on DraftKings, and he paid off 334 and 3 touchdowns. He was awesome. Or I guess you could say Baltimore's defense is that bad. Baltimore's defense great against the run. They're so bad against the pass, and they were down their top 2 cornerbacks this week. So you saw Cedric Tillman go off. I keep wanting to call him Charleston, and I'm going to do that at some point. But Cedric Tillman he's looked phenomenal in 2 weeks. I don't know if it's legit. Like, he's had easy matchups like Cincinnati and Baltimore, 2 of the weaker cornerback groups in the NFL. So I feel like, yeah, I would obviously add him in fantasy. I'm sure most people have had him already. But I would be a little bit cautious. Like, I wouldn't expect this sort of production each week. I do love David Njoku, though. I think he's the de facto receiver 1 on that team. Nick Chubb, he cracked 50 rushing yards, which is actually pretty impressive against Baltimore's defense. So maybe he could have some decent games down the stretch. For Baltimore, Derrick Henry only ran 11 times. They were trailing for some parts of the game, but I kind of confused about why Henry only had 11 carries. Maybe they're just trying to preserve him. They thought they could beat Cleveland, and obviously they didn't. Zay Flowers is great again. Mark Andrews keeps catching touchdowns. And the Ravens traded for Deontay Johnson. So I feel like he's going to be like Hopkins and like Adams, where they make some catches, and Amari Cooper, they make some catches. They don't have great games, but by the end of the year, they're doing a lot. So I would not play Deontay Johnson this week. or even next week because they have a Thursday game. So maybe after that I would do it, but not yet. So what are your thoughts on these teams?
Jameis Winston looked legitimately good, except at on the very. If anyone didn't see the last drive, he threw a pass right into the hands of Kyle Hamilton, maybe the easiest interception Kyle Hamilton would have ever had in his life. But then he drops that, and then the very next pass, Winston throws a touchdown pass to Cedric Tillman. What a sequence of events! And then the Ravens. I mean, if the Ravens had 10 more seconds, they win that game probably. I think you covered pretty much everything there. I think Winston is viable. Winston, he's better than Deshaun Watson right now, which, I mean, I don't think people realize that. I think this is an upgrade in a weird way. Jameis Winston is a significantly better player, and I think that's better for all the players in that team. I think that's good for Nick Chubb down the stretch. I think it's good for the receivers. It's good for Jerry Jeudy, who I dropped, and then you picked up in our league, and then someone else picked them up after you dropped them. Also, I've got Zay Flowers. We talked about him last week. I've been disappointed in his production. He finally, he was pretty quiet in the first half. He goes off late in the fourth. He makes this unbelievable throw down the stretch. It was an unbelievable catch where, he's falling backwards. He gets an unbelievable catch. He stumbles. He runs. He breaks 2 tackles. He's running, it's a 47-yard gain, and he slips the 5-yard line, and he dives ahead, and he lands at like the half-yard line, like inside the 1.
Yeah.
And on the next play, they handed to Derrick Henry. He scores a touchdown. It's like he was literally like, if he slips like a tenth of a second later, he scores a touchdown there. And, I still won my game this week. No big deal. But I might have been the highest scorer in our league if Zay Flowers scores that touchdown. Just reminds you, fantasy football is a game of inches. But Zay Flowers, I think, is a must start every week. I mean, he's good. And sometimes you just get unlucky.
How do you think Deontay Johnson fits in to this team?
He runs, a lot. I think he's he's an analog for Rashad Bateman. So yeah. Eventually he just takes over the number 2 role there. And they look like they want to pass the ball more. They want to be a passing team, but they just seem like they've not been able to do it for various reasons. And so I think Deontay Johnson is he's a great route runner, and it doesn't matter what kind of offense you're in. That's good. So, we saw with the Hopkins this week, they tried to get Hopkins involved really early in the game. On the first play, on the first drive, he was the first read on multiple plays. And so I can imagine the Ravens doing the same thing with him. If you're really thin, injuries or bye weeks or whatever, if you're really thin this week, I would start Johnson in a flex spot if I had to. If you got better options, obviously, yeah, don't do that. But if you had to do it, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah, you have to consider what else you have. I think it might be slow to start, but I do like the fit for sure. I can't believe they only got him for a swap of 5th and 6th round picks.
Nothing.
Seems like Carolina, just a complete disaster in the front office. They just can't make any good moves. Although they did sign a couple good guards, but hasn't done much for them, I guess. Bagley says we will choose the opposite governor of the president's party. Interesting. I don't know why that is. I don't know. I still think Virginia's going to go red. Guga Foods Moment says, should I start Broncos defense or Saints defense? I think it has to be the Saints against the Panthers, right?
The Panthers are terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great, yeah.
Yeah. Denver's defense against Baltimore. I wouldn't go that way. Saints defense for sure. Let's see. Ravens don't have a quarterback to throw that much. Well, I don't know. He's 2-time MVP. He's not Lamar Jackson's not the best passer in the league. Obviously, he's really good because of scrambling, but he's a good passer. He's not great, but he's a good passer.
He's been really good this year in passing.
This year has been great. In the past, he's been inconsistent, but yeah, this year has been great. So yeah. Anyway, let's get to the next game. Which is as we scroll down here, the Packers 30, Jaguars 27. The Packers were up by 10. The Jaguars came back. They had a field goal, and then Lawrence had this great touchdown drive. Packers win at the end. Packers lose Jordan Love again. He's going to be out with a groin, or we think he's going to be out with a groin. I should say we don't know if he's going to be out yet. So if he's out, Malik Willis is going to start once again, and we've seen Malik Willis work So I feel like the Packers will be in good hands with him. Josh Jacobs had a monster game, 127 and 2 touchdowns against the Jaguar defense that's actually like pretty decent against the run. Like they've been a lot worse against the pass, but in run defense they've done well. But Jacobs just went off. Tucker Kraft had a great matchup here. He went 3 for 78 and a touchdown. I love Tucker Kraft. His playoff schedule is great. So if you can afford to trade for him, maybe wait till after the Week 10 bye. But his playoff schedule is very juicy. So you can just try to wait for that and then trade for him. As far as the Jaguars are concerned, Travis Etienne might be back this week. So, which I don't know. It feels like he shouldn't get take away work from Tank Bigsby, but I don't trust Doug Peterson to make the right decision. And then the Jaguars receiving core, they lost Christian Kirk, as we discussed. Gabe Davis got injured. And then Brian Thomas got injured too. They initially said Thomas is going to be out 2 to 4 weeks, but then they said he's day to day. But I don't think we even know what injury he has yet. Just very, very odd situation there. Like we don't know if he's going to play against the Eagles. I think there's a chance he misses one game. So the Jaguars might be down to Parker Washington as their top receiver. Which is he went 3 for 46, but still, it's a sad state of affairs. Obviously, Evan Ingram gets a huge boost, but this Jaguar team looks pretty shaky right now. So, they already did, but now even worse. So, what are your thoughts on these teams?
Yeah, I don't know who Parker Washington is, but I think I checked this morning. I think he's owned in less than 1% of ESPN leagues and less than 2% of Yahoo leagues. That's including like a significant uptick in pickups. He was like owned in 0% of leagues last week. So, yeah, I guess he's worth a shot. By the way, Josh Jacobs is awesome. There's like a weird sentiment on the internet that like he's not good. I don't know where that comes from because he's awesome. He's always been awesome. I don't get it. I don't know. The Green Bay wide receiver situation right now. I know you like their tight end, but it just feels like everything's a toss up from week to week. Like in any given week, it's going to be a different. Maybe 1 week it's Wicks, and 1 week it's Kraft, and 1 week it's Jaden Reed, and another week is going to be Watson. And it just feels like I don't know who to start, and so I just don't trust any of them. I would want to if I absolutely needed one of those guys to come through for me, I think I'd be nervous. And so I don't know how I feel about that. Christian Kirk out for the year. Pour one out for my boy. I have been the president of the Christian Kirk fan club for quite some time. He was not been great this year, and now he's out. And so I think at the end of the day, I don't trust anything in the Jags offense other than Tank Bigsby because they have moments where they're really good and there are moments where they really suck. And I think it's just Trevor Lawrence. There's moments where he's good, moments where he sucks. And it's hard to trust that offense. So if I'm an owner of anyone on the Jacksonville team, I'm not sure I trust any of them other than Bigsby. And even with Bigsby coming back, or with Etienne coming back, as you mentioned, I'm not even sure I totally trust Bigsby getting the workload, even though he's clearly the better running back. So I don't know. I think right now, if I own any Jaguars player, I'm only starting them as like my last resort.
Okay, where would you draft Bigsby if you had to redraft for the rest of the season?
I think he's a low end. Let me see. I think he's a low end RB2. In my mind. So I think like, let me think where I would. I'm trying to look. I'm looking at. I don't know. Maybe is 4th round sound too crazy?
He's been going like end 6th, beginning to mid 7th in best ball.
I think that's great value.
Yeah, I do too. I like that too. So yeah, I just hope that Doug Peterson makes the right moves.
Yeah.
So
in best ball, it's different. Best ball because you don't need to decide. Like what you don't want to do is start him in a regular league, season long league. You start him over someone else. Like I don't know that I would trust him, but on a best ball,
right?
I mean, he's great to have on a roster.
Yeah, although he hasn't had his bye yet, but still, I still like him in 6th to 7th round. I think it's pretty good.
That's a difference.
Yeah, last comment for politics would be cool if all the guests for the election show would submit their own maps. That'd be cool. I don't know how long everyone can stay on, and like Tuesday's tricky because we also have our picks show. So I don't know how Evan feels about that, but yeah, we'll be going live earlier than 10:30, like probably like maybe around 9. Like as soon as my kids go to bed, we'll go live on election night.
My prediction is 297. Trump 297 electoral votes.
Okay.
So
I'll have to do my own math. I don't know the number off my head. I'll have to do that. So,
and I think Trump wins the popular vote by half a point. By the way, I'm going on record, half a point.
I think it won popular vote too. If someone asked for Jefferson and Jameis to get Lamar in a super flex, would you do it? Daniels is my other quarterback, and my receivers are neighbors Deontay, Waddle, and Dell. I'd get Lamar.
Jefferson and Jameis in a super flex.
Yeah,
that feels like a lot.
Yeah.
I think Jameis is going to be good down the stretch. Like,
yeah, me too.
I think he's unless you're in a league that just penalizes you hardcore for interceptions,
Right.
I don't. I love Lamar, but I don't know that I would do that. Jefferson and Jameis feels like a lot.
Yeah, it's like if you get like -10 for interceptions or something like, yeah, maybe you do the trade, but no, I would rather keep Jefferson and Jameis. By the way, I spoke to a guy at a company, and he's in a high end fantasy league. They fly out to Vegas to do their draft. It's $5,000 entry, and what they do, and in addition to that, they have these matchups. So, for example, if I were to play you in week 1 or so, or whatever week, and you beat me by 10 points, they multiply that by it's $10 a point. So if you beat me by 10 points, I would owe you $100 in addition to that. Like, isn't that crazy?
I love that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty cool idea, but you have to be a high roller for that kind of stuff. Yeah. Anyway, let's get to the next game. Texans 23, Colts 20. This was a tight game throughout. The Colts had their chances though, but as we discussed earlier, Anthony Richardson got benched. He checked himself out of the game, and at the time I was like, oh man, he's got injured again, and no, he was just tired. So I don't ever remember a quarterback removing himself from the game when he was tired. He was 10 of 32. There were some drops, sure, but like 10 of 32. How does that happen? Like in today's NFL, where like
he started 2 of 16.
Yeah, it's just awful. He's just not good. Like, and he wasn't running either. He had 6 scrambles by the end of the game, but he only had 1 run by halftime. I was like, why is he not scrambling? Like, Houston's bad against scrambling quarterbacks historically. Like, they can't win against these scrambling quarterbacks. They almost lost to Indy the first time. And Richardson had his best game of the year against Houston week 1. So he just keeps getting worse. Feels like every start he gets worse. So I think it's the right move to bench him. And I see like people saying, oh, they're giving up on him, which I think is a bad just mindset to have, because the Chargers benched Drew Brees in his second year for Doug Flutie. Flutie started like 3 games, and then Brees became the starter again. Dante Culpepper got benched in I believe his 3rd year. And then for Todd Bauman from St. Cloud State, and then he took over again in 2 to 3 games, and he had a great game the following year. And we know how Breeze did. McNabb got benched for a time. Like, these quarterbacks can get benched and then come back. Like, it's not like they're cutting him. They're just like, hey, just stand on the sideline, learn something. Maybe build up your stamina so you don't have to check out of the game.
That's terrible, man.
It is awful, but it's the right decision. The Colts are 4-4. They have a chance to make the playoffs. Joe Flacco is the upgrade. The Vegas they moved the line 1.5 points in favor of the Colts when they made the move. The Vikings were -6.5, and then when it was announced Flacco started, dropped to 5. So it tells you all you need to know about how the sports are regarded. So anyway, Texans ran the ball well with Mixon. Unfortunately, Stephon Diggs is out for the year, so it's just going to be Tank Dell next week. But Nico Collins is going to be back in week 10, and from all accounts, he's healthy and ready to go. So they only have to survive 1 game against Tank Dell, and luckily for them, it's against the Jets. So I think they may still win that game, even though they only have Tank Dell. So what do you think about these teams?
A bummer for Stephon Diggs because he looked good. He's having a good season. I think the Texans are not as good as I thought they were going to be as a whole. CJ Stroud's not been as sharp. Overall, still a good team, still very competitive. Joe Mixon is awesome. I'm old enough to remember when Joe Mixon was supposedly cooked, and I drafted him in all 3 of my leagues, and he's awesome. So thank you to my teammates or my league mates. the Richardson stats, he started 2 for 16, and then over his next 16 throws, he was 8 for 16. Like, that's way better, but it still sucks. It's still like 50%. Like, and it wasn't just the numbers. If you watch those throws, there were some horrific throws in there. He's got some wide open guys that he overthrows, some balls that if he leads the guys, it can be complete. Like, it's not just that the numbers look bad, but the actual throws themselves look worse. And so I just I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know if he can get better. Like, this is awful, and I just can't imagine. Like, you're the 4th pick of the draft, 4th pick, right? Like,
yeah,
like there's no you. This is inconceivable to me that someone with supposedly this much talent would be this bad. So, yeah, I don't know what to do. He did throw one touchdown that was a drop. It would have been the Goodson drop one for the touchdown. That would have changed, but he was still terrible. And so, yeah, there was another one where Downs, or there was one where the DBs ran into each other, and Downs was wide open, and he makes a good throw to Downs, and Downs, scores a touchdown. So, but like, yeah, it's overall it's terrible, and like if he plays, like no one on that team is startable. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is barely startable. If Richardson's going to be the guy long term, but with Flacco, I think it changes the game. It makes all the weapons much more valuable. Like, primarily Michael Pittman.
Yeah, I love Downs too. Downs might be my favorite because Pittman's dealing with a back injury right now. Downs looks great this year. If Trump wins the popular vote, he sweep the swing states. Yeah, I think he will. And a clean honest election, Trump 312. But we all know nothing is close to clean. That's sad. It's a sad state of affairs. So we can't trust the elections. How about the coach's decision to throw for your own 12 with 23 seconds to go? Interception leading to a touchdown. Yeah, it was pretty brutal. As someone who bet the Colts, I was very upset, but luckily they still got there. Richardson sucks right now. It's Matt Tyson saying, Richardson could have CMC uncovered for check down, and homie going to throw deep to Jalen Reagor. And then if Thomas Jr.'s out, I'll be stuck with Pittman or Jacoby Myers. What would Kenny do? Standard scoring.
Standard scoring. If Flacco the quarterback, I think I like Pittman.
Okay. Jair is saying someone offered me Walker for Brian Thomas. Kenneth Walker? I would say Kenneth Walker.
Oh, yeah.
Brian Thomas, for sure.
I mean, I like Brian Thomas, but I would take Walker for sure.
Yeah, right now in best ball, Kenneth Walker is going late round 2, early round 3. Brian Thomas is going round 4, round 5. So absolutely, Kenneth Walker. All right, next game is let's see here. It is as we lose it here. All right, so Cardinals 28, Dolphins 27. It felt like the Dolphins were ahead for like the majority of this game, and they blew it at the end. Arizona came back and won. Miami just can't win these days with Mike McDaniel. Is just a disaster of a head coach. But they did look better. Tua got the ball out quickly to Devon Achane and to Tyreek Hill. Like, Hill finally gets on the board here. I know he didn't have a great game, but still, he didn't have like one catch like he's been having without Tua. So it's an improvement. Arizona, James Conner, only 20 for 53, but he scored. I love James Conner's fantasy playoff schedule. It's so easy. So I think it's the best playoff schedule there is, at least that I've seen. Trey McBride looked awesome too. Marvin Harrison Jr. made an awesome catch, a diving catch that they actually had a review, but he caught it. So looks like he's finally starting to come along. Arizona's bye, I believe, is week 12. So there's a chance Harrison could be great down the stretch. Usually rookies after their buys tend to do better. So yeah, Harrison could be. We talked about him as a buy low in the past. So I hope you guys made that move because he looks like he's starting to turn around there. So what are your thoughts on these teams?
Yeah, I think Marvin Harrison finally. Yeah, he did. This is kind of obviously his best game so far. Still not sure I fully trust him. Yeah, but if you bought low, obviously if you own him, you're not gonna be able to sell him. Yeah, and then you're not gonna need value for him. And if you didn't buy low on him last week, then you're not gonna be able to do it this week. So whoever's got him is probably gonna have him. Trey McBride looked awesome. James Conner looked good. Tua looked good. This offense for Miami Dolphins looks drastically different with Tua at quarterback compared to the slop they've had, and so you can actually now trust your Dolphins. Also, Jalen Wright, I think he's potentially a really good running back. He's only scored, I think he scored one fantasy point this past week, something like that. There have been moments where I feel like he's good, and I wonder if there's a chance if they just, what are they, 2-5?
Yeah.
They were the best team in this. They were the better team for 56 minutes of this game or so, 55 minutes of this game, and then they just kind of fell apart and lost. I mean, credit to the Cardinals for hanging in there and being great and, giving it all for 60 minutes. Obviously, it's a cliche, but it's true. You play all 60 minutes, play to the whistle, whatever the cliche is. But I wonder if the Dolphins might dump some players here at the trade deadline. I wonder if that potentially could be the case. Is there anyone and if that's the case, does Jalen Wright maybe get some looks? Do they want to see what they got this guy in this, this rookie running back who I think is potentially good? And so if he's open on I think he's only owned in about 40% of Yahoo leagues and less than that in ESPN. So if he's on your waiver wire, I think he's the kind of guy you might want to sock away on your bench just in case, he kind of breaks out late in the season.
Yeah, I like both those guys. What if they trade, talking about trading veterans, what if they trade Raheem Mostert? If Dallas wins this week, Dallas will be 4-4. Maybe they'll make the move because they have nothing at running back. So I can see that happening. So if that does happen, like Jalen Wright will look awesome because Achane is not like the most durable player. So I like the idea of having like either Mostert or Jalen Wright on your rosters. I've been drafting both in best ball. Jalen Wright's been going like 17th round. I've been scooping him up like every time. So I hope he does take over. That'd be awesome. All right, anyway, the next game is Falcons 31, Buccaneers 26. This game was more of a blowout. The Buccaneers came back a little bit at the end, kind of in garbage time. And they really had nothing going on outside of Cade Otton, who went 9 for 81 and 2 touchdowns. Just like a monster game here. It's kind of crazy because he was not doing anything to start the year. But like now that all the receivers are out, like he's finally just making a move here. Raheem Jarrett was their second leading receiver. So I don't like any of these other guys. Like in the passing game for Tampa, just Otton for me. Bucky Irving continues to look like the better running back. Like Rashad White was getting carries in the first drive and he fumbled. So it's like, why are you using Rashad White? As a receiver in the backfield, sure, but like not as a runner, it's kind of dumb. For the Falcons, Kyle Pitts had a great game, although he got lucky he didn't Deshaun Jackson the ball. That one play, I thought he did. I thought he actually lost the ball, but they ruled that he didn't. Still 4 for 91 and 2 touchdowns. Like feels like he's finally just matching his expectations that we saw with the fourth pick. Now it's still too early to take him, given all the crazy players that were in that class, and he probably should have been like the 12th pick in that draft. And like had he been the 12th pick, like no one would be talking about him. Like if you went after Parsons and after Sewell and after Chase and after Surtain and after Devontae Smith, like if you went after all these guys and went like 11, 12, 13. Like no one would be complaining about him, but like he went before all those guys, so it's still a bad pick. But he's finally coming into his own, which is nice. Bijan Robinson, great game as a receiver, and Cousins once again torched Tampa. He had 500 yards the first time, 4 touchdowns the second time. So we can confirm Tampa can't stop the pass. So what are your thoughts on these two teams?
Cade Otton, by the way, looked legit. I went look in games where either Evans or Godwin has missed time. In games where Evan and Godwin are both healthy and, either receiver's playing, Otton's targets were about 4.5 targets a game. In games where Godwin or Edwin's missed time, Godwin's or Evans are missing time, his targets are about 9.5 per game. And so we've seen the last 2 weeks. And so I think Otton's legit. He's not a great player, but Baker clearly trusts him. Baker is still playing at some of the best football of his career. And so I think it's real. If you've got Otton, I think you could trust him. I think I trust him over a lot of tight ends right now. He's probably the 7th or 8th most trustable tight end. The position is kind of, just kind of a dumpster fire to some extent, but he's trustable. The running backs are not trustable right now. Bucky Irving is, he's looked decent, but gosh, it's just hard to trust them. They're not getting in the red zone. I wouldn't want to start any of those running backs right now. Unless I absolutely had to. Overall, Atlanta keeps looking good. They're not great, but they're good, and all those players are trustable. London was getting double teamed all day long in this game. They kept rolling lots of coverage toward him. So smart by the Bucs, right? And so the plan was clearly to stop London, and if they continue to do that, that's going to open up opportunities for other guys. And Bijan running a lot of routes. Algier is non-existent in the passing game, and so I think he's averaging 1.5 targets a game over the last 5 games. That's okay. 1987, but Bijan is a huge part of the passing game, and so there you're starting to use him more. He's running real routes. He's running kind of a lot of routes up the middle of the field, and so if London's going to get double teaming, I can see Bijan just racking up the receptions, and so Bijan's underperformed a little bit from his draft performance or draft position in the summer, but I could see him having just a monster kind of last few games of the year, and I think he's a league winner type guy. So you can't buy him low, and obviously no, but if you could somehow get a hold of Bijan, for slight value, man, I think he's got a chance to just be awesome down the stretch.
Yeah, me too. I love Bijan. I think he has a favorable schedule from what I remember seeing in the playoffs. So yeah, if you can try to get him, I would. All right, next game is we have the Patriots 25, Jets 22. What an embarrassment for the Jets. They had to win this game, and they can't even beat the Patriots. Jacoby Brissett drove down at the end of the game to beat them. Jacoby Brissett, not even Drake May. If it was Drake May, it'd be okay, fine, maybe this guy's gonna be great. We're seeing him have his breakout performance, but no, it was Jacoby Brissett. Throwing to Kayshon Boutte and Tyquan Thornton. It's not Wes Walker and Randy Moss. It's just complete garbage here. Outside of Hunter Henry, who's continues to be a solid PPR tight end. Pop Douglas, second game in a row. Second game in a row. He's done nothing. Although last week he dealt with an illness, so I wonder if that still lingered. But I still like Pop Douglas more than any receiver that they have. And Stevenson, 2 touchdowns on 20 carries, 48 yards. Not very efficient, but still he found the end zone twice. May suffered concussion, so he may not play this week. So that's unfortunate. For the Jets, they just keep making mistakes, dumb coaching, missed field goals. Feels like it keeps screwing up in so many ways that just adds up. It just piles up, and they just lose. Tyler Conklin had a nice game with Alan Lazard out, so it was just him over the middle of the field. I like him this upcoming Thursday against the Texans. I think Adams is. I don't like Adams this week, but maybe with a mini bye, maybe he and Rodgers could develop some chemistry that they used to have. So right now, I still think it's Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall, I love him as well this Thursday. So, what are your thoughts on these teams?
Yeah, Breece Hall, awesome, great player. This Jets team is. I wrote down in my notes: frustrating and inconsistent. That's it. That's the only. New England mostly sucks, but they're this is this team. It just reminds me of the early Bill Belichick years, and I wonder if they're on something here. They have a bunch of players that are not great talent, but overachieve. They're smart players. They put good effort, and so I think they're going to overachieve a little bit. And I wouldn't want to start many players from that team, obviously, but Stevenson, I think, is trustable. He's a decent flex option. If this team's going to play like this most weeks, I think Stevenson is a guy you could trust as a flex. I think most people probably have better options on the roster, but if you don't, bye weeks or injuries, or if you've been hit hard with injuries, you need a flex option. Stevenson, you could do a lot worse than Stevenson, I think.
Yeah, he's pretty game flow dependent. If they had the lead or if they're close, he's going to have opportunities. But if they get phased out, it's kind of hard to trust them. But yeah, I think you have to pick and choose your spots with him. But I think I think you're right. He's a flex guy. Jets most talented 2-6 team ever, possibly. They're very talented. They're just coached very poorly.
I also, I've been a pretty big Aaron Rodgers booster over the years. Man, this is Aaron Rodgers just looks like he's checked out sometimes. His body language is terrible. He kind of throws his teammates under the bus a lot. I wonder if he's just sort of done, like not physically done. He's not like cooked. I wonder if he's just, oh, excuse me. Sneezing in people's ears here. Sorry. But I wonder if he's just like sort of mentally out. Like he just doesn't seem right. And so I wonder if it was just coaching, but I wonder if he's just out of it too. And something, him and Garrett Wilson are not on the same page. I don't like, I really like Wilson. I think he's a great talent, but I don't trust him. If I'm a Garrett Wilson owner right now, I'm afraid to put him in my lineup because I just don't know what I'm going to get.
Yeah. It's just very poor coaching with the Jets. You would think that they would let the defensive coordinator still be the defensive coordinator, but instead they just gave him more responsibilities, and so that hasn't gone well at all. So I don't know. I mean, if they lose in Texas, it's going to be 2-7, most talented 2-7 team ever, I guess. Anyway, moving on. Eagles 37, Bengals 17. Eagles, it looked like they're going to lose the beginning of this game because the Bengals had these long drives. They converted like a 3rd and 22. They converted another 3rd and long, and they just held the ball forever in the first quarter. But then the Eagles stormed back, and they look dominant. Their secondary is just much better than it was to start the season. Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell just playing out of their minds. Just cool to see as someone about the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. I'm very happy with their recent results. Devontae Smith had a better performance than A.J. Brown, but Cincinnati's secondary is just awful, so not a surprise that they both broke over 80 receiving yards. Barkley went for 108. Feels like, this game against Jacksonville coming up, I think he should do well. For the Bengals, there was no T. Higgins, so it was Mike Gesicki playing in the slot. The Eagles are weaker in the slot than anything else, so it kind of makes sense that he went off. Chase caught a touchdown on only 54 receiving yards. And yeah, not much else to say about the Bengals. I'm pretty down on them. As I said on Tuesday, I listed like a million things wrong with the Bengals, and then Mike in the comments was like, outside of those million things, do you make the Bengals sound pretty good? So, what are your thoughts on these teams?
Yeah, I think the Eagles played their best game of the year, kind of the most complete game of the year so far. Jalen Hurts has quietly had a fantastic run since, before the bye week. He had 6 touchdowns and 7 turnovers. That's not a good stat. But since the bye week, he's had 9 touchdowns and no turnovers, and that's the big one. And so he looked really good in this game. He looks shaky. I think they're the only team in the NFL that's not scored in the first quarter so far this year. They've not scored in the first quarter of any game this year, which that's game planning and coaching for them to just not be able to come out. But they made some significant adjustments in the second quarter and in the third quarter, and they looked really good. And so he looked really sharp. If Jalen Hurts plays in this for the rest of the year the way he played in the second half of this year, the Eagles will be the best team in the NFC. That's if he plays like that. Do I believe he could play like that? I'm not so sure. So, speaking of guys being tackled at the 1 yard line, like I was talking about Zay Flowers, Barkley makes this unbelievable run, sidesteps 3 players, breaks the tackle. He's going down the sideline, tips toes for 8 yards, and then dives, and he's out at the 1 yard line. And of course, it's tush push. Jalen Hurts vultures the touchdown. So if you're a Barkley owner, that's a bummer, but no, it is what it is. Also, last thing I'll say, Chase Brown. He's a really good player. They got away from the run. The Bengals got away even before they were really down. They kind of just got away from the run, and I don't understand coaches that do that. Your running game is working, and they just totally got away from it. And then they were down big. They were down by 17. Then they totally abandoned the run. So for us Chase Brown owners, that was a bummer. But Chase Brown is really good. Zach Moss sucks. I'm taking a victory lap on that one.
Yeah, you called that one. It's bad coaching. One of the many things I said that was wrong with the Bengals is bad coaching. Zach Taylor does stupid things. So, they have a lot to fix. John says Bengals should trade for J.C. Horn. That would help. Their secondary is awful. They can't cover outside receivers at all. So that would go a long way. But they still have some major issues they need to fix. I know I bet them to win the Super Bowl a few weeks ago, but they've they've been a huge disappointment. Like not only in this game, last week they barely beat the Browns. It was 21-14. And that was a game where Dorian Thompson-Robinson played, who was a downgrade over Deshaun Watson somehow. And then the week before, they played the Giants, who have gotten clobbered ever since by both the Eagles and the Steelers. That was a 10-7 game before Chase Brown scored in the last seconds to make it a 17-17. That was 17-7. Cincinnati's just not impressive at all. So yeah, they need a lot of help. And J.C. Horn would be a nice start, but they still have a lot of other issues that I've mentioned. All right, so the next game is Lions 52, Titans 14. So this is a game where the game was 14-14. Calvin Ridley had like 114 receiving yards or something in the first quarter. And like I even tweeted, I'm like, he's on pace for like 450 receiving yards. is pretty insane. He only finished 143 only, still a good performance overall from him. Mason Rudolph looked great early on, but then he made some just killer interceptions. And you kind of remember that it was Mason Rudolph throwing the ball, not someone dressed up in a disguise for Halloween or something. Jared Goff continues to be super efficient, but he didn't have to do much. Like he only went 12 or 15, 3 touchdowns. He did get sacked quite a bit to start the game, which is kind of shocking, but the Lions did all their damage on special teams. Jahmyr Gibbs is awesome, 11 for 127 a touchdown. He's fantastic. Sam Laporta got in there on National Tight Ends Day. Of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown, only 2 for 7, but again, like Goff didn't really have to throw. So I wouldn't read too much into that. So what are your thoughts on these teams?
I mean, you said everything. I mean, this game, it's weird to say this. This game actually was not as bad as someone might have thought, as the score shows. Detroit had 4 different short fields because of interceptions and a punt return. And so like 4 different times they started deep in Tennessee territory. And like that makes it like that makes it, easy, obviously. So the score, they blow them out, but it's like, man, are Tennessee really that bad? I'm like, well, they're bad, but maybe not that bad. And then Gibbs is finally like asserting himself in terms of just being a phenomenal player. Like, okay, like we see why they drafted him in the first round, where they drafted him in the first round. We see the talent there, and we're starting to see a little bit of a separation between him and Montgomery. Obviously, the coaching staff clearly loves Montgomery. They think he's a great locker room guy, leader guy. But I think we're starting to see that Gibbs will really be the guy. And as a Gibbs owner, I think that's great. I think he's a league winner type guy down the stretch.
Yeah, he's obviously the better one, but they just extended Montgomery, so they're still going to use him. He's not going away, but this team runs the ball so much that they can support 2 running backs pretty easily. But if one of them were to get injured, like the other one would just like skyrocket in value. Like it would be insane. All right, so we have the late afternoon games: Chargers 26, Saints 8. This was 9-5 at halftime. So Saints, I think people expected more from the Chargers this week because everyone saw the Saints just get demolished with their bad defense against the Buccaneers, with like Sean Tucker running for 1,000,000 yards, and then the Broncos on that Thursday night game. But the Saints got some reinforcements back, so they were healthier. So the Chargers winning 26-8, I think, was more impressive than what like some people would think. Lad McConkey was awesome, 6 for 111, 2 touchdowns, until you remember that the Saints can't defend slot receivers at all. Like they're dead last at defending slot receivers. So fire up Jalen Coker this week. So J.K. Dobbins, 17 for 57, not great, but again, the Saints, they got Pete Warner back, some other players too. They were going to be better defensively. Saints couldn't do anything. They couldn't score, I should say. But Chris Olave went 8 for 107 with Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. So it sounds like Derek Carr might come back this week. So I love Olave rest of the year. Alvin Kamara too. He looks good. So what are your thoughts on these teams?
Yeah, I mean, if Derek Carr comes back, it makes a significant difference on the weapons there. Alvin Kamara, I actually have Alvin Kamara in multiple leagues. I actually tried to trade him last week to one of the guys in our league.
There's some drama there.
But I'm really glad. I'm glad that Dave didn't take Kamara because he could have Rico Dowdle in his starting lineup, score 0 points, or he could have I think his running backs on his other than one running back, the rest of the guys, I think 4 running backs combined for 8 fantasy points. So I'm really glad he turned down Alvin Kamara. Dave, if you're watching. Anyway,
I'm gonna pull up the trade here that he offered you. Keep talking. I'm gonna pull it up.
Anyway, I don't even forgot the rest of Chargers are great, or the Chargers weren't great, but Dobbins is great. The one thing I'll mention about this game is Vidal. I've already mentioned this before, but Vidal is the kind of running back. There are these running backs that, like, if the starter gets hurt, they could step in to be a league winner. He's the kind of guy you want on your bench if you can get him. So,
yeah, I agree. I think Vidal is in that territory with, like, I think Tyler Algier is like one of the better ones, but Vidal's like maybe the next tier down. I think he's definitely someone you should own in leagues. All right, I have this trade pulled up, so you guys can chime in to think to say what your thoughts are in this trade. So you would get Brock Bowers, okay? Body burners would get AJ Brown, Chase Brown, Dontavian Wicks, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Alvin Kamara. What do you guys think about that?
That's the trade he offered me. Yeah.
Did you even consider it?
I considered sending him a computer virus.
There's precedent there. It's funny. Even if you clicked accept, it would never have gone through. It would have been vetoed like instantly.
Right.
I don't. It's pretty funny. So anyway, we next game is Bills 31, Seahawks 10. This game was played in the rain. You would think like the Seattle team would do better in the rain, but they did not. Like Geno Smith, he had issues in the red zone. There was a missed snap that went over his head on I think it was a 4th down, and then the next drive, his center steps on his foot, and then Geno throws this awful interception a little bit later. Just a bad game overall, but it was a tough matchup in the elements. So I'm not going to knock him for that. Plus DK Metcalf was out too. So all this stuff going against him. Jackson Smith and Jigba was the only viable Seattle fantasy players. Just PPR though, 6 for 69. Lockett didn't even show up on the stat sheet. It's kind of crazy. Buffalo, Josh Allen was much better in the range because he can run around. James Cook was excellent, 17 for 111, 2 touchdowns. He's awesome. I was dead wrong on him entering the year. I thought maybe Ray Davis could challenge him. And Ray Davis had a great Monday night game against the Jets, but James Cook is just fantastic. Khalil Shakir, you said this last week. You compared him to, believe Devontae Adams early on. He's still young, but 9 for 107. Like this, he just keeps getting better. And Amari Cooper being there just takes all the attention away from him. It's just like perfect situation for him. And also Keon Coleman, who went 5 for 70 and touchdown. Amari Cooper didn't do much, but I suspect that's going to change in the coming weeks. So what do you think about these teams?
Yeah, I love Khalil Shakir. I don't fully trust him week in and week out, but I think he's a great talent long term. Should have thrown him I actually totally agreed with you on James Cook this summer too. I don't really believe in this guy. I didn't know much about Ray Davis, but I thought maybe Ray Davis could be, people were talking him up, and so I was on that. I was on that train. Keon Coleman looks legit. Josh Allen looks great. Keenan Coleman was actually the first read on the first drive, was the first read on multiple plays. So I think this offense is going to be good. And their receivers were kind of a mess the first couple games of the year. They're trying to figure it out, but I think there's some viable flex options, wide receiver 3 options here with all these guys. So the Seattle offense, by the way, they looked really out of sorts. Is it just DK or am I missing something? Like, was it just the Geno injury? Was like it can't just be the DK. There's something else going on. Am I missing something?
Yeah, it might be the rain too. Like Geno's been awful in the rain throughout his career, so that could be it. But Metcalf is such a big presence in that offense that they have no replacement for him. It's like Jake Bobo steps in. It's like, yeah, how do you just go downgrade from Metcalf to Bobo? Like it's just gonna go wrong,
Right.
So anyway, we have Bills defense that's good against teams that don't run the ball at a high clip. But Buffalo is weaker to the run than the pass, and you would think they would establish Kenneth Walker. I thought Kenneth Walker would have a good game. He only ran the ball 9 times. Just it's like bad coaching, bad execution. Like how do you not run Walker in the rain? Like just awful. So anyway, we have Redskins 18, Bears 15. I don't know if you heard this. There was an exciting game at finish to this game.
I heard.
Yeah, right.
I watched this game live, actually.
Yeah, me too. I mean, Jaden Daniels he was expected to not even play in this game, and heading into Sunday morning, it's like, oh, he's going to play. That moved the line. I believe the Bears were -3. It moved it to Redskins -1.5. So we know Jaden Daniels.
That's a huge move, man.
It's a 4.5 point move. It was warranted. The Redskins were up for most of the game. The Bears get the touchdown, or you think it's the final touchdown, and then Daniels has that 70-yard Hail Mary. So he was great in this game considering that he was banged up. Tough matchup too. Like he wasn't 100%. Even Tony Romo said that he would pull Daniels on that Hail Mary drive. Which I asked Evan yesterday. I was like, what was the worst of the two? What was the worst final drive calls? Was it Romo saying I'd pull Daniels in favor of Mariota, or was it John Madden famously saying, "Oh, the Patriots should take a knee here and go to overtime against the Rams in their first Super Bowl"?
No, well, that was pretty bad.
I think that was worse. Yeah. Like the rest is history there. But yeah. Anyway, McLaurin, big game despite the Daniels injury. Ertz 7 for 77. Fantastic there. The Bears receivers just not doing anything, but Caleb Williams is under pressure all game. The Redskins bring a lot of pressure. That's something to do very well. So if you own these Bears players, just know that better days are coming, because the next game the Bears played against the Cardinals. The Cardinals had the 30th ranked pressure rate as opposed to Washington's 7th ranked pressure rate. So big difference there. But DeAndre Swift goes nuts here, 18 for 129. The Redskins can't stop the run. So what are your thoughts on these teams?
Both of these offenses looked really sluggish and out of sorts for most of the game. I feel like Caleb Williams was like terrible week 1, but he's like slowly gotten better each week, throughout the course of the season thus far. This was the first time where it felt like he kind of took a little bit of a step back. And they really just could not. They kind of struggled. The Redskins also just felt like they were struggling. Both of these teams kind of moved the ball in between the 20s, but both struggled in the red zone. And so, I just feel like they were out of sorts and couldn't really, they weren't efficient, particularly in the red zone. But what a play by Jaden Daniels at the end of the game there. What a play. That's one for the ages. You got to love it. They just, it builds his confidence. And I like this. I think Brian Robinson Jr. is trustworthy. I think Zach Ertz is trustworthy. Again, the tight end position is just total dumpster fire slop. It's a big island of garbage floating around the Atlantic Ocean. That's the tight ends right now. Some people think Puerto Rico is a big island of trash. No, it's the tight end position in the NFL right now. But I think Zach Ertz is actually relatively trustworthy. I mean, I think he's in a top 7 or 8 type tight end right now. And if Jaden Daniels continues to get better, I think Zach Ertz could be a sneaky, decent start down the stretch. So that's it's hard to totally gauge if was he 100% healthy. Does Daniels not being as good as usual is it because of maybe he's not 100% healthy, but there were moments in this game where he looked electric.
Yeah, and he's going to be even better this upcoming week. He should be healthier, and he plays against the Giants, who can't stop anything at all. They couldn't even stop the Steelers. So looks good for him. Chiefs 27.
Stop your soul from being happy, though.
That's certainly true. Chiefs 27, Raiders 20. There's a backdoor touchdown. Unfortunately, that's the only big play we lost on Sunday. We had Chiefs -9, and they were up 14. Raiders scored backdoor touchdown, which is pretty upsetting. Raiders offense looked better. They had Jacoby Myers back, so it wasn't like the top receivers weren't Trey Tucker and DJ Turner. Just like of course the Raiders struggled when they didn't have the Jacoby Myers. So Myers is back plus Bowers. So they have a couple of good receiving threats for Gardner Minshew. He did not throw an interception. He threw so many interceptions last week against the Rams. But he did play better in this game. Only 6 incompletions, which is pretty remarkable. The Chiefs, DeAndre Hopkins didn't do much. He didn't play all the snaps. 2 for 29. Like again, all these guys who just joined the team, they're going to do better as the season progresses. So you just have to wait a little bit. Kelsey went nuts. Xavier Worthy, he caught a touchdown, but kind of an inefficient game for him. So he's a little frustrating at the moment. Kareem Hunt did well, but it sounds like Isaiah Pacheco is going to be back in two to 4 weeks, I think, probably 2 to 3 weeks. So if you can offload Hunt for something, I would try to do that now. So what are your thoughts on these teams?
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I don't know what you could get for Hunt at this point. My guess is there's probably not a lot there. This Vegas offense, other than Brock Bowers, I don't think there's anything I trust in this offense. I want no part of this offense other than Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is a type 3, probably top 3 tight end down the stretch, maybe the top tight end down the stretch. I mean, he's awesome. I was trying to trade for him in our league. I was legitimately I was shopping Alvin Kamara and other players for Deebo Samuel and Brock Bowers. I thought that was fair. Clearly not. Dave did not think that was fair. But anyway, and so all that to say, yeah, I think I think this team, I want no part of it. The Chiefs offense, I still don't want most of these Chiefs players right now. They're just, what is Mahomes now? I think is the 11th best quarterback in season long fantasy, so in standard scoring, something like that. He's spreading the ball around. Kelsey looked great this week, but not too long ago, Kelsey had 4 catches for 17 yards, right? Like, so it's weird to say that they're the best, maybe the best team in the NFL, and yet I don't trust any of the players in this team from a fantasy. If you have to rely on a Chiefs player to win, I would be nervous, which is sort of it's a weird place to be, that I think I'm trusting Baker Mayfield more than Patrick Mahomes in my fantasy leagues. I can't believe that just came out of my mouth.
You know what's even worse is that the Chiefs, if they keep winning, they may sit their starters in week 17, which is like the fantasy championship. So if you have any of these guys, which to your credit, to like what you said is true. Like, none of these guys are great except for like Kelsey's fine or whatever, but he is inconsistent. If you have even if you have Kelsey in the championship, like you may not have him in your championship. He may sit. Or Pacheco, like Pacheco comes back. I think that's going to be the Chiefs guy you want offensively, but he may sit in week 17. So if you're a fantasy owner of the Chiefs players, like you kind of have to you have to hope that this team starts losing a game or two, because they're so far ahead of everyone that they just may sit their starters. So
yeah, and I just think the way they're winning games, it's like they have no incentive to change the way they're playing.
Yeah,
like spread the ball around, play conservative, and then when the game is really on the line, like give it all out. It just it's hard to imagine that I don't think it's going to turn around. I think that's the point I would make. I don't think it's going to turn around.
Yeah, Mahomes probably the favorite for MVP right now, given that they keep winning, but he's not played like his best. But you know what's coming. It's in the playoffs. He's going to turn it on. And he's gonna be great. So
yeah, that's what it's all about.
Right. Yeah, it's a long season. They're not going to try hard every game. They experiment a lot. Like they throw it to their linemen. Like that's what Andy Reid, like it's almost like preseason for him. Like he's just like they're just toy with their opponent. I said that they're like a cat playing with the food. Like that's what they are in the regular season. And they're just going to get better.
Must be nice.
I know, right? Joshua, yeah, yo, do y'all do questions? Yes, ask away, Josh. That's what we're here for on Wednesdays. Julian asking trade away DK for is that Bijan or Brian Robinson? You have to specify. I have London, Puka, DeAndre Hopkins, and Dell. So it's hard to answer this question not knowing if it's Bijan or Brian.
Well, if it's Bijan, no.
Yes.
I'm sorry. If it's Bijan, yes. Like if I'm giving away DK to get Bijan, I'm doing that in a heartbeat. Absolutely. So I'm assuming she's talking about Brian Robinson.
Yeah.
Or he is, or they is.
Yeah, Brian Robinson, yes. Okay. So no, I'd rather have DK than Brian. It's close, though. It's close, but
I think it's really close. I think DK's got more explosiveness to him, right? Like in any given week. I think Robinson might be more reliable. The running back typically going to be a little more stable, a little more reliable. And I think the Redskins will get better as Jaden Daniels get better. So I maybe give a slight edge to DK, but if you really need the running back upgrade, I think I might do it.
Yeah, makes sense. He says he has London, Puka, Hopkins, and Dell. So it looks like he has good receivers. He has Brees and Dobbins as running backs, which is like, it's good, but, if you need a third, it's fine.
Yeah, if you need a third, I don't know that I would feel the pressure to do anything in that situation because Tank Dell may not be great. I mean,
right.
The Texans offense has been good, not great. Dell's been good at times, non-existent other times. I don't know what the Diggs injury is how they're going to impact them. So yeah, with that roster construction, I wouldn't feel the urgency to go trade for a running back.
Yeah. I just thought of something you could pick up in week 17. You might play Carson Wentz. If the Chiefs play their backups. And you know what we're gonna do. We're gonna play Carson Wentz in DraftKings. That almost won me $50,000 if I didn't go James Conner to Zamir White like an idiot. Anyway, I'll never forget. Never forget. No, Broncos 28, Panthers 14. The Panthers scored the final and first touchdowns of this game. They went up 7-0. Like it was like, oh, they're gonna pull the upset. No, of course not. They were just dominated the rest of the way. So Deontay Johnson got traded. Jalen Coker had 6 targets for 4 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown. He plays in the slot. So, like I said, fire up Jalen Coker, especially DraftKings. I think he's like 3,300 on DraftKings. So I'm going to play him in every lineup, and we'll see what happens. Not that I do 3 lineups or 2 to 3 lineups. So anyway, not much to say about the Panthers. Xavier Legette gets a boost with Deontay Johnson gone. But you need Andy Dalton to play because you can't count on any receiver with Bryce Young, except for Jalen Coker, because it's easy to throw it to the slot. For Denver, Bo Nix, a great game here, but it is the Panthers. We had Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton's over receiving prop was like 43. Like he got that in like the second quarter. He went 8 for 100. I felt stupid for not laddering it because I remember Sutton to hit 75 receiving yards was plus 333. So I was even looking at like 100 plus receiving yards for Sutton. I didn't know what it was. I think it was like 5-1 or 6-1. I regret not betting that because he definitely got there. Every outside receiver does well against the Panthers. So so Chris Olave looks great. Chris Olave very cheap in DraftKings as well. Javonte Williams, very disappointing here. 17 for 44 against a bad run defense. Don't know what that was all about. Maybe Josie Jewell coming back to the lineup for the Panthers helped, but still, I thought he'd have a better game. So, what are your thoughts on these teams?
Bo Nix played his best game of his career in this game. Obviously, the Carolina Panthers defense was they helped him in that regard. So I think, I think it was the Bo Nix show. Bo Nix kind of just trying to play out, and so Javonte Williams had a couple good runs. He was tackled in the backfield, or a couple runs that would have been tackles in the backfield, and he kind of broke away from them. So I think he was fine. The stats obviously don't look great, but I think this was about Bo Nix kind of just trying to show out a little bit. Maybe Peyton was trying to show him off, or maybe Nix just wanted to play. Yeah, I think this was sort of a Nix game, and obviously against the Panthers defense, gosh, they're just terrible. I don't know. If James Madison was playing the Carolina Panthers this week, what would be the line? James Madison in Virginia, a state that Walt thinks will go red. We'll see about that in a few days. But I just this Carolina Panthers team is so bad, and you can't. No one is startable. Even Chuba is not really startable because you can't trust them if Bryce Young's in the lineup. You can't trust they're going to score any points. So Chuba becomes, hard to trust. Is this the worst team we've seen in recent history?
It's the worst defense we've ever seen in our lifetime. It's metrics wise, they are the worst. I tell you this, EPA looking at the EPA numbers, right? So no. They judge it based on if you look at overall EPA, like negative 1.8 is the best defense, which is the Chiefs right now. So Chiefs are negative 1.8 yards per play. And then the 31st team is 1.8. So these teams 1 through 31, they're all ranging between negative 1.8 and 1.8, right? The Panthers are 3.6. They're just so far out of the scope of every team that they are not even close to the 31st best team. Like the 31st best team, think about it this way. The difference between 1 and 31 is the same as the 31 and 32. Like
that's unbelievable.
The 31st ranked defense in the NFL is like the 85 Bears compared to the Panthers. Like maybe not. It's like the 2024 Chiefs. That's the best defense in the league compared to the Panthers. Like that's how bad they are. I should say the Chiefs are like the 85 Bears compared to the Panthers. I guess.
Oh man, that's terrible. They're terrible.
Yeah. So play everyone you can against the Panthers, especially outside receivers. Like I said, Chris Olave 6,100 on DraftKings. He will also be in all my lineups. So
if Alvin Kamara scores 6 touchdowns in this game, I'm gonna screenshot it and send it to everyone. I made 3 different people I offered Alvin Kamara to, and I thought I made fair trade offers and trying to upgrade my receiver position. But
I'm upset you didn't offer Alvin Kamara to me. Where are my trade offers?
I mean, you probably have a bunch of terrible receivers. I don't see.
It's probably true. Although I'm 1 game out of the playoffs, even though I had like a slow start to the season. I've won 2 in a row, so I have a chance. I think. Anyway, so we had the 49ers beat the Cowboys 30-24. This was a blowout. Dallas came back at the end. San Francisco scored 21-0 in the third quarter. Although Deebo Samuel left with an injury, George Kittle had a monster game on his National Tight Ends Day, which he invented. Isaac Guerrero, I think he'd be the number 1 fantasy ad this week if the Niners played this week and Christian McCaffrey wasn't coming back soon. Because Jordan Mason, I think, legitimately got injured. So it was going to be the Guerrero show going forward, but McCaffrey's due back in week 10. So I don't know what we're going to get out of him, but I think just in case McCaffrey isn't back fully back or something, or if he suffers a setback, like I feel like Guerrero should be owned. Just like worst case scenario, but you could probably pick him up after week 9. Anyway, for Dallas, CeeDee Lamb just went nuts. 13 for 146 and 2 touchdowns. I will say this about Dallas. Like, I think Dallas sucks, but Tyler Guyton, who's been awful all year, their rookie left tackle, he had his best game of the year against the Niners. So if he improves, like if it's permanent, I don't know if it is, but if it is, then that could really help Lamb down the stretch. And like Lamb could be the number 1 fantasy player the rest of the year. And he's already had his bye. So just for like best ball purposes, because it's going to be hard to trade for him. But anyway, what are your thoughts on these teams?
Speaking of teams that make your souls sad, the Dallas Cowboys. Man, I think Dak and CeeDee Lamb, they've kind of had their best game maybe of the year. They seem to be on the same page. The rest of the team is a disaster. You don't want anyone on that team. Like you wouldn't want to start Rico Dowdle in your league and have him score 0 points because he's not playing in the game, like someone in our league did this past week. You wouldn't want to do that. Anyway, George Kittle's awesome. As you said, I think I actually really like Ricky Pearsall. I picked up Ricky Pearsall in my leagues, and he's on my bench. I think he's got a legitimate shot to get a lot of targets. And so if Ricky Pearsall, am I pronouncing his name right? Is it Pearsall? Pearsall,
yeah.
And so I think I checked it yesterday. I think he was only owned because he's on bye. I think a lot of people are not picking him up. He's only owned in 19% of ESPN leagues, and I think he was only owned about maybe like 24% of Yahoo leagues. That's like really low owned. If Deebo misses any significant time, I think Kittle obviously would be the number 1 target, guy on that team. But I think Pearsall could be number 2 if Deebo were to miss any significant time. So I like him as a pickup.
Yeah, I mean, he was my number 1 sleeper in the summer until he got shot. So
that's what a crazy sentence. He was my number 1 sleeper until he got shot.
It's crazy, isn't it? Well, luckily he survived. Yeah, he's a good player for sure.
So I mean, just a quick funny note. I was sitting watching this game on a couple nights ago. I was lying down on my couch, dozing off, half watching. Is what I usually do. Anyway, my wife comes up and she sits down, and my wife knows very little about football or sports in general. And she says, "Oh, who's playing? Oh, it's the Niners and the Cowboys." She asks like she knows, but whatever. She's like, "Oh, who's playing?" I'm like, "It's the Niners and the Cowboys." And then Ricky Pearsall had a catch, and I'm like, "Oh, like." And they mentioned that he got shot in the telecast. I was like, yeah, this guy was a first round draft pick, and I had to explain what a first round draft pick is. And then I'm like, yeah, he got shot. And my wife, who is actually very intelligent, she has a master's degree, she said, "Well, did he die?"
Well, he died, and he's playing, and he's gonna vote.
I said, it's a baby. He's. She goes, oh, that's right. Yeah, he's playing.
That's excellent.
So my wife is very intelligent. She just had a moment. We all have those moments.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, well, in today's society, when dead people vote, they could play football too. Cassandra asking in general, do you need to play a quarterback in DFS Showdown? Not by role, just realistically to have a chance. I mean, it depends which quarterback and what the matchups are, like how they're priced. Like, it's a complicated question. It's a game by game basis thing. Like, if Lamar Jackson's playing, you probably need him in your lineup just for the raw points. Of course, it depends on how much he is. Like, I remember like one showdown, Lamar Jackson. I think this was like during his MVP season. Like, he was like 20,000 in showdown, which is like 40% of your salary cap. It's like you needed to score like 35 points to like justify his price. And of course, like if he gets there, then yeah, you're going to need him. But generally, so probably not. So yeah, I mean, if it's a good matchup, you probably want them in there. If you're playing, if this is a cash lineup, which I don't think it is, like just based on what you said in the other comment, but in a cash lineup, the floor for quarterbacks is pretty high. So you generally want those guys in your cash lineup. But like what you're trying to do in these showdown lineups or any DraftKings contest is you're trying to beat out 100,000 other people to win the top prize. So right. You have to figure out what most other people are going to do, and you have to formulate a game plan to beat it. So you have to kind of ask yourself, like the quarterbacks. I don't know what showdown you're looking at, but like in this, let's just take Texans Jets for example. Like if you think that a lot of people are not going to play the quarterbacks because it's a tough passing matchup. And the running backs should do well, but if you think that these quarterbacks I think are a little underrated, there's still Rodgers, Stroud are pretty good, but if people aren't going to play them, then you should play them because the ownership's going to be low. Conversely, if you think everyone's going to be playing a quarterback who's in a mediocre or a tougher matchup, then you'd be like, I could probably get away with not playing this guy and hoping that the running game gets there, or maybe some defensive touchdowns, and so the quarterback's not going to have to throw. I mean, even the top quarterbacks don't do much. Like Josh Allen has had 2 performances this year where he's had fewer than 10 DK points, and he's been the top fantasy quarterback in the NFL. So like these quarterbacks don't always go off. So if you don't have your quarterback in the lineup, you have to kind of like construct a game script as to like why that didn't happen. So like for example, if like the Bills are playing in the showdown and you don't put Josh Allen in your lineup, you're probably going to have like James Cook in your lineup or Bills defense or something like that. Mm-hmm. So that's it's again, it's a case by case basis. It's hard to say generally. There's no rule for like general, like it just really matters what the matchup is or what the price is, what everyone else is doing. There's a lot of factors involved. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on this, but yeah.
No, I think you said it right. I mean, I think it's a good question. I almost always have a quarterback in the lineup, and I almost never have him as my captain. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of situations where, and I've not won a lot of showdowns, so maybe I've not cashed in any showdowns recently. So maybe that's maybe that settles it.
Nice. I won a showdown. It was a Seahawks Niners showdown. This year, that Thursday night game. Unfortunately, I chopped with like 143 people, so it wasn't a big payout. I promise you that. Actually, I should chop with Jacob. Jacob was also one of the people who was one of the 143. I had one quarterback in that lineup. It was Brock Purdy. I did not have Geno. I don't think. I'll pull it up. I guess I'll try to pull it up in a little bit to show you guys. But it was Deebo Samuel was my captain, just because Deebo always tortures the Seahawks. I think I forget who else I had. I'll try to pull it up anyway. So yeah, again, it just depends on what matchups and everything like that. I agree generally, like quarterbacks as captain is a bad idea unless like they're going to be the highest scoring player, you know, like Jalen Hurts makes sense as captain if you think he's going to rush in all the touchdowns like that. If that Bengals-Eagles game was a showdown, like Jalen Hurts would have been the winning captain because he ran in 3 touchdowns. And so, you know, if you put Hurts at captain, then like you either need to add like 2 or 3 of his receivers because he's either going to spread the ball around. Like if he throws for 4 touchdowns and all the other receivers have 1 touchdown each, then the receiver's not going to get there enough to be captain. So you either have to do that, or like in the event that we saw against the Bengals, if Hurts runs everything in, you're not going to want any other Eagles. You know, right. I guess Devontae Smith got there, but still, like generally, you know, the receivers probably are not going to get there. Like AJ Brown, getting him in your lineup would have lost you the contest because he was going to be too expensive. So you kind of have to think about it that way. But if you don't want quarterback as captain, then you should, and you want him in your flex, you should probably have one of his receivers as captain, because then if that receiver catches all the touchdown the quarterback throws, the receiver is going to be the captain, the winning captain, because receiving touchdowns count more than passing touchdowns.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll try to find that lineup in a bit. Just to be fair, Damar Hamlin died, and it's 2 picks this year. To be fair to your wife, Hamlin died. Yeah, lots of jokes there. Free Soul asking 10-man PPR 2 flex. So his lineup is Hurts, Henry, Brian Robinson Jr., James Conner, Chase Brown, Chase Amon-Ra, Brown, McLaurin, Reed, Mooney, Kyle Pitts. Do you think I package a receiver like Terry and a running back like Connor for an elite running back? I think you're fine. As I said before, Arizona's playoff schedule is great. Like James Conner, assuming he stays healthy, is going to have just a great finish to the season. So I wouldn't trade Conner. I think your team looks good. I mean, you say you're 5-3. I think this team has a lot of potential. So what do you think?
I mean, it all depends on what you're getting. You know, what's the elite running back? You know, the need for depth on your team is essential to get through bye weeks and injuries. But as you get closer to the playoffs, depth is not as valuable because you can only start so many guys in your league. And so if you can package guys that you're otherwise not going to start to have a massive upgrade, you know, can you get Barkley? Like, if you can package one of those guys and get Barkley, then yeah, it's worth doing. Sure. You know, can you get, you know, or can you make maybe a low end trade? Can you try to steal Tyreek Hill or CMC from someone? You know, could you want to upgrade your starting lineup? You want to trade depth if you can to upgrade your starting lineup if possible. And in that case, if the answer is yes, then great. But that's harder. That's easier said than done. Obviously, it's pretty hard to do in most leagues.
Yeah. So yeah, here's the lineup. So I had Deebo as captain. And so Purdy, like I said, Purdy and Kittle, because Seattle's weak tight ends as well. Then I had Kenneth Walker. You know, he didn't have a lot of rushing yards, but he had a touchdown. And I had him in here because San Francisco's weak to receiving backs. Tyler Lockett, San Francisco also weak to number 2 receivers. And Lockett just made sense as a final option. And I had the Niners kicker. So this was the winning lineup. Jacob and I both chopped. Nice. on that Thursday game. So
did he have the exact same lineup as you?
Same exact lineup, yeah.
Nice.
143 people had the same exact lineup. So
wow.
Yeah. It's that's a crappy thing about Showdown. Is like, unless like you're super unique, like there are gonna people have the same lineup. So
yeah.
That's why I like the regular contest better. So anyway, we have one more game to talk about. This is the Monday night game. The Giants, they played the soul crushing Giants. They lose to the Steelers 26-18. If they didn't have that stupid 2-point play they tried a swinging gate for some reason, and like the players weren't even prepared for it. It's so dumb. If they converted that, they would have pushed, so that would have been a better night for us. Tyron Tracy looked great, and then he suffered a concussion. So unfortunately, he's going to be out. I assume he's going to be out this week. I saw a report today saying that he just entered concussion protocol, so I don't think he's going to play. So we're going to have Devin Singletary for one game. But the takeaway here is that he had 20 carries, Singletary had 2. Like that's pretty drastic. I thought there was going to be some sort of split, but Tracy is legit, so I get it. Neighbors dropped another pass, but it's still great. 7 for 71. Slayton 4 for 108. I wouldn't trust that to continue, but if Neighbors goes down, then that's something. Theo Johnson 3 for 35. I think he's like if you need a tight end on bye, if like your tight end's on bye, you have to pick someone up, and he has a good matchup. I think you could play him. He's very athletic. I think he has some upsides, and he's a rookie. He's going to get better. For the Steelers, look at Najee Harris, 19 for 114. Just that's how bad the Giants' run defense is. Like Najee Harris is not a good player. Like, and they made Najee Harris look like Walter Payton here. It's ridiculous.
Or Walter Cherepinski.
Yes. Same thing. George Pickens went 4 for 74. He had a touchdown nullified. I don't know if you saw that almost touchdown. It was like an optical illusion. Looked like the foot was down, but then it wasn't. Like it's kind of crazy. And then the last thing is that Jalen Warren, he went 2 for 13 as a receiver. He had more receiving yards. They changed one of his he had an 18-yard carry apparently. That was a reception, but they turned it into a run, and that cost people because his over/under receiving yards prop was 12.5 on DraftKings. It was like 13.5 on FanDuel. And so the people who had 13.5 were paid out, but then they got the money taken away from them, which is kind of crazy. So at least we won with the 12.5. That's what we had for our player prop. So got a little lucky there, I guess, even though I feel like the people who had 13.5 were robbed. So any thoughts on this game?
The New York Giants are a terrible team. They're terribly coached. Dan Jones sucks. Devin Singletary clearly is out. This Tracy kid is legitimately good. He was really good in this game, and bummer that he's concussed. And the Pittsburgh Steelers. We were talking about the Jets being like the best, or like the best 2-6 team. Are like the Steelers the opposite of that? The inverse, like the worst. Are they 5-3 or 5 or 6-2?
6-2.
Are they like the worst 6-2 team ever? Yeah, this team, like they're like I didn't realize they were 6-2. I'm looking at their stats. I'm like, we're looking at the standings a couple days ago. I'm like, that team sucks. How are they 6-2? That team, like they could play any. If they made into the playoffs, they would be like a 7-point underdog to like anyone in the AFC that's in the playoffs. They just would be. They're terrible. I don't know how the team is 6-2. It's remarkable to me, but and I don't trust anyone on the fantasy. I don't trust any of those players on those teams, really, other than Malik Neighbors. I don't know that even as good as Tracy was, I'm not sure that I trust him going forward. So for fantasy purposes, I don't think there's any one of these teams that I trust, that I know for sure that I can rely on to be good in any given week. It's gross.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, Steelers playoff schedule: Eagles, Ravens, and then Chiefs. So you want to offload these guys. Najee Harris is the most sell high ever. Like he's had some great games, but that schedule is brutal. Like Ravens don't allow any rushing yards, Chiefs don't allow any rushing yards, and the Eagles have gotten better too. So try to trade Najee Harris if you have. Like just offload him as quickly as possible, and just hope that the person you're trading him to doesn't know about that schedule at the end. You don't definitely need to tell him. Jay Smell is asking, should I trade Metcalf and Tracy for Montgomery and Downs? This is like running back receiver for running back receiver. I never get these trades. Like, feels like you're never doing anything, you know? Like, I get like trading running back for a receiver because you might be weak at one position. Like, here you're just trading a running back and a receiver for a running back and receiver. You know? For this,
I don't think I would do that. I think I like Metcalf and Tracy better than Montgomery and Downs.
Yeah. It depends on like how severe Tracy's concussion is, and just may not know that. And like Montgomery is the only player of these four who's had his bye, so that's something. But
Sure.
it's close. It's very close. I don't. I think I agree with you, but it's so tight. I don't know. Should Giants lose to the Redskins, then go to Europe and lose to the hapless Panthers? Will they fly home without a head coach? I believe so. I think so. If you lose to the Panthers on an international stage, Davo's gone. I'd be shocked. Yeah. Yeah, they have to send him on a raft. It would be Sawyer's raft that they'll send him home on the Atlantic. Bag is saying, as a Chiefs fan, I literally can't watch Steelers games anymore because I get so jealous watching Pickens ball out on that lousy offense while we're stuck with Sky Moore. Well, now you have DeAndre Hopkins at least. You know, he's old, but still, you have an upgrade there. And it's unfortunate with Rashee Rice getting injured, and also Marquise Brown. Like, they look like they're going to have a legit receiving core, and then they're both out for the year. So at least they have Hopkins. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that Hopkins is going to be great, but yeah,
it's an upgrade, and Juju's coming back soon, so you can't forget about that.
Great.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description for merch store. We'll be back tomorrow with the great Andy Isco talking a week 9 NFL picks after the game, 15 minutes after the game or so. Kenny, anything to plug here? Any final thoughts? Maybe your website, thecapsfake.com.
Thecapsfake.com. Check it out. Lots of content, articles, interesting stuff. Check it out. And I think a week from today we'll be talking about the 45th, now 47th president of the United States.
That's right. Can't wait. Oh, hopefully we'll know. But
I think we'll know. By this time next week.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. What time do you think they'll call? I guess we can ask these questions on
3 a.m. Tuesday, 3 a.m. Wednesday morning.
Tuesday. I'll be up. I'll be in the middle of my workday, so I'll know.
I think he's going to win Pennsylvania. I think he's going to win Georgia. Georgia and North Carolina are going to be early calls, and then I think Pennsylvania is going to be close enough. It'll be close, but yeah, maybe I'm ridiculous. Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe who knows?
I think you're right. They'll only call it if Trump wins. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll discuss that. Last question from Slew. Would you rather work the drive-through window at McDonald's or drive a big dump truck? I'd rather work in McDonald's. Like the problem with the driving dump truck, like I remember this one time these guys were, I was walking my dog and like these guys like pick up the trash in my neighborhood. So one guy, it was like 95 degrees and humid. The one guy like stopped. He's like, do you have any water? I'm like, what? I'm just walking. What do you mean? He's like, do you have any water? I'm like, no, I'm just walking my dog. He's like, oh no, it's so hot. Actually took my dog home and brought him a bottle of water just because it felt so bad. But like, the drive-through, it's air conditioned, or if it's the winter, it's heated. You don't have to worry about that. So I'd rather be indoors than worry about the elements.
McDonald's got, you get a free meal on every shift.
Mm-hmm.
That's, in this economy, I'll take that free meal,
Yep. Which one pays more? I guess it's the trash. I guess like the trash get better benefits, I suppose, but I don't know. It can be back in this. I get it. I don't know. It can be rough, but if you're going to drive a trash truck, do it in like LA when the weather's always nice.
Yeah.
You don't have the extremes. So, all right, guys. Thanks so much. When I worked there in 2003, they only give us 50% discount on the meal. Well, at least it's half off. At least that's something. So,
man, only 50% off. That's rough.
But like back in 2003, the food was cheap. It was like $1 for a cheeseburger, so you're only paying 50 cents. Like now you're paying $2.69. So it's pretty rough. So, all right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow. And once again, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. And yeah, Kenny, great to do this with you as always. You're going to be off the next 2 weeks on Wednesdays. So I don't know who we're going to get to replace you. So you will be missed these next 2 weeks on the Wednesday.
I'm irreplaceable, Walt.
That is true. You're right. So, all right, guys.
This is the merch store. January is Envy Month.
That's it. That's right. It's coming up soon enough. It's going to be November tomorrow, or on Friday. So it is. Be prepared for Envy Month. Envy rights are human rights. So We'll be back again. We'll be back tomorrow, guys. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.